I think, there's so many things from this panel, and also that all the attendees shared through our community whiteboard, through our time together, and what we heard from presenters. And so it's hard to do it justice in just a couple of minutes, but I just really appreciate the sort of Howard opened with a question saying like, what is coming tomorrow? And then Jen layered in like, but it's validating to know that we're all sort of grappling with these same challenges. We talked about the intersections and importance of collaboration, that sort of, maybe it's not a bridge building, but it's a sort of more tightly weaving shared responsibilities. We heard about the need to celebrate success, communication as being a really critical element, both within organizations, between organizations, and with those who benefit from or don't necessarily or are not yet benefiting from the investments and leadership in the space of climate action that's stemming from the water sector. So among many things, I think I'd like to segue with repeating something Mark said that I think will stick with me as we lead in now to talking with all of you and transition away from the panel discussion, but start to talk about our commitments to connection and continuity and continuing our work together beyond this shared virtual space. Which is that Mark said, we are all wanting, worrying, and trying. And so we're now going to shift our conversation away from the panel and want to thank all the panelists for your contributions, for your leadership, for your expertise, for your reflections, and for your time today. So thank you all for that wonderful discussion. And as we all sort of sit and think about the worrying that we might be doing, the wanting, the more that we want to do, and the things we want to try, Julian and I are going to now facilitate a bit of a reflection, and we're going to really lean into that trying and doing an action piece of what we heard in the panel. There's so much work to be done, and so much that's already underway. And so many of the key players, those needed actors, are here in this space together, whether you're connected to one another or not. So this is hopefully an opportunity to continue to build community or create new community as we navigate our way through the challenges and realities of the work ahead. So we have another Mentimeter. So we'll give you a little bit of time to transition, get yourself back in there. And this is a quick activity. There's only 2 questions, don't worry. And as you know from the Mentimeter, this is anonymous. But we would like for you now to think about what that trying piece looks like for you as we plan to leave this space and continue outside of the space together. So we'd love you to think about what following steps or actions to working towards advancing climate adaptation that you will take in the region. Those could build on any of the leading practices that we've been focused on during our time together. Maybe something a panelist said inspired you, but we would really love to have you reflect on and think about what's next. What are you going to try? What kind of commitments might you make stepping out of this space into continued work? I'm going to try to do less worrying, but I love that Mark included it in the wanting, worrying, and the trying. So I'm not in Mentimeter, but I feel validated in my worry. There are no wrong answers here, folks. These are your own commitments of any shape or size. Okay, utilize the tools that are available to make resiliency a priority. I love that. We learned about a lot of them.
So if you did a direct copy and paste from the chat, add another 5 there so you can get in.
Okay, we see assist with making the link from policy to practice and regulation. Support the next generation of water leaders. Form partnerships with different groups. Prioritize collaboration. Share stories, listen. I love that one. It's so much harder. It's one word, but underneath it, a whole lot of work and practice. keep pushing the envelope, not letting pessimism and resignation that often come with climate change space to get in the way. And power sharing that voice. I love that. Keeping political leaders informed, develop clear scenarios. This is wonderful. Right, Julie, I don't know, do we want to transition to the next question? Give it a little more time.
Let's give it one more minute.
One more minute for all your great ideas, commitments. Let's see it. Sometimes just putting it on paper, this virtual paper pad, makes us more likely to actually follow through. We might have a lot of good ideas in our head. I know that's usually me. Maybe they're not good ideas. I have a lot of ideas in my head. Unless I write them down, I'm like, what was that?
All right.
All
Well,
right.
we
Wonderful.
can move to the next one, but if people have thoughts they want to share, there's certainly the chat is still available, and we'll keep the Miro board also open. So if people want to continue to populate your ideas there throughout the rest of the day, I think that would be great. And just take a chance to look at kind of what other people's ideas are. I think that can be really empowering as well. So we're going to move to our next question. So this workshop was short, and the amount of things we could have talked about during this time was huge. Plus, converting the workshop from an in-person format to an online format, we had to actually be pretty brutal in only covering certain topics and not going into as much depth as we really would have liked to. So the planning team thought there might be opportunities for more regional learning and connecting following the workshop. So on topics such as communication strategies or other details on how people are thinking about extreme precipitation or sea level rise. As such, and you guys are already on this is great. We want to take a moment to ask you, what would you be interested in learning more about? And also, if you have ideas for where to go for these resources already, like share that information as well, or people or tools that you would love to hear from. Like, this is just an effort to collect your collective knowledge as the planning team is going to think forward as to what might come next. So please share some of those ideas. And so the question, what do you want to learn more about in upcoming webinars, workshops, and other gatherings? And so far, we have Delaware River Basin specific planning. We have cross-disciplinary collaboration in the realm of water management. We have hearing more narratives from other communities. That's great. Case studies on providing public understanding of the situation and trade-offs of different approaches. More community engagement, so getting to those individual communities, thinking about what that looks like. Keeping the momentum going, not reinventing the wheel. Oh, that's so important. So understanding kind of that clearinghouse that Franco kind of mentioned of who's doing what where, I think building that up sounds great. Or if somebody already has a clearinghouse of what that information is, making sure that we all know more about that. So risk tolerance for different applications in water sector and how that can inform the climate information we use. That's great. Practical examples of adaptation management strategies for infrastructure projects at facilities. So going again to those kind of leading practices, like what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, and being able to share each other's lessons and not reinventing the wheel or learning from each other. That's awesome. So I'll give a few more minutes if people want to add. Also, I want to, if folks would like to raise their hand and share any ideas as well. And I am not seeing the larger group at this moment. So if your hand is raised, I apologize, but Does anybody want to speak up and share their reflections out loud? All right. People are saying things in the chat, which is great. And you can continue to do this.
Julie, I will just pop in. I know I'm the facilitator for this webinar. This is Alyssa, and I'm not in the Delaware River Basin, but I'm really struck by the last few days just hearing about all of the different projects that are going on in the basin, and I really do think that not reinventing the wheel is really important, and these convening opportunities are so unique and really valuable. So I'm impressed with the momentum that's happening in the basin, and I want to give kudos. So I know that some folks can feel like it doesn't things aren't moving fast enough, but I do think, like, I work with communities across the US, and this is really impressive. So big kudos to this group for attending and the work that's happening.
Yeah, thank you so much for piping in and leading us on this journey, Alyssa. So
Happy
it's
to.
nice you have experience from across other contexts as well. So I think that means a lot and speaks really highly of this region. Ellen, I see your hand up.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to call attention to the question that I asked in the chat. I had talked with the organizers about this and we ran out of time, but I so often see these questions about deep dives into decision frameworks and risk management and thinking about what tools to use. And so I've come around to this thinking, and I'm actually presenting it to NOAA leadership next week. And that is using our audiences like this one, and certainly our federal partners as well. So this isn't just going to be a NOAA thing, but creating essentially a criteria list about how to evaluate a tool to understand if it's something you should use. Thinking about its metadata, and it's not enough to say we use NOAA data. It's like, well, that's great. NOAA data is available to you, of course. However, if you're not using all of NOAA's data, or you're using 30 data points and not 3,000, it's important not only to use the data, but to understand their methodology. And so NOAA has been really thinking hard on this in the advent of some of these additional climate service products that are coming out, and thought that we would like to offer that service. So I'm very interested to hear from Kavita's point here and others. So if you would check the box, I can follow up with you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for availing that opportunity. And I think that would be a great way to help to inform all of the things that are going forward in the realm of climate services, which is huge and rapidly evolving. So make your voices heard. All right. Well, so we are getting close to time. This has really zoomed by, and so I want to take a moment to do some additional reflection and welcome to the stage Alan to share with us his thoughts.
All right. Well, there's just so much here, but the first thought that was just kind of top of my mind as this discussion was happening, and Ellen, thank you for chiming in. WUCA, we like to think of ourselves as leaders, right, in this space of bringing people together. And we've talked a lot about empowering people. That was also something that WUCA, I think, has done successfully over the years, even by having a point person rather, within each agency that is representing WUCA, that then becomes the person who is coordinating climate for that agency. My takeaway, though, my point is that even if there's one, we can go so many different directions after this workshop, and I think we wonder, like, okay, we have these one-off discussions, but what happens then? Even if there is one, person in this group that takes the initiative to convene some of us, for a follow-up conversation like Ellen just described, with that back and forth on the NOAA criteria. I really think that is a success. We really want to continue the engagement going, but also learn from our community members. That's another theme I heard. So I really appreciate the call to action. Like, what are you going to do next? And encourage each of you to really not just think about it, but actually implement, as send the email, do whatever you can to take that next step, just for at least tee up that next step. So I'm certainly feeling encouraged by the conversations. I know we have multiple forums through WUCA, through the Delaware River Basin Commission, and others where we can continue this. So thank you all. Really want to thank EPA and NOAA and Julie, you at AGCI, and Cadmus. But that doesn't even scratch the surface of everyone that's contributed to this effort. So thank you, and I will turn it over to Julia.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciated the discussion today and everything we've talked about over the past 3 days. And I'm looking forward to just digesting everything that's on that mural board. There's so much great feedback there. So I would say stay tuned to the group for follow-ups from our planning group for this WUCA workshop. And Heidi, I wrote down something you said, that we're on a continued learning journey, which I think was really relevant for me in this workshop. I learned a lot from the conversations we've had. So just thank you for all that engagement. And thank you, like Ellen said, to Julie and Alyssa and EPA and Steve and Heidi for everything you've done to make them such a success. So yeah, I just, agree with you, Alan. Just the little things we can do to make forward progress that might seem little in the moment are really maybe not that little, and we're actually pushing the ball forward more than sometimes we may give ourselves credit for. And to that point, Alyssa, thank you for that comment and perspective you gave, having worked all across the country on these issues. I think we have achieved a lot in this basin, and it's just a matter moving forward of how we can continue to maybe better coordinate, engage with other partners, our communities, and just, keep working together beyond the struggle bus together, as Jen said. And so just thank you all for participating.
No, great. And I will do kind of a final, what we're thinking in terms of immediate next steps. And just in my reflections, I had thought, what is it that I would mention as something that I've heard kind of in preparation for the workshop, from the pre-workshop survey, then throughout the week, this idea of seeking opportunities to connect and learn from each other. And kind of the idea of the struggle bus is something that I will certainly carry forward, and to be fortunate to be on that bus with you all, but also kind of thinking forward, what is that solution space? And I think there's lots and lots of innovation. So while this workshop is wrapping up, I really do hope that it inspires additional thoughts and considerations into what those collaborations might be. So simple steps. Earlier, we shared a collection of pre-workshop materials. And so what we're going to do is we're going to gather the materials that were shared during the workshop, and including what got shared by the speakers, any links that were in the chat, or other resources. So if you do have additional resources you want to share out with this group, please send them my way. We're also going to make the presentations and recordings available on the WUCA website. So if you missed something, or you want to hear from our fabulous speakers again, or if you have colleagues that you think would benefit from these resources, or to hear kind of what was shared, hopefully this can be a way for them to experience some of this information, learning, and possibly pull them into the future collaborations as well. So we'll send an email with those materials when they're ready. So keep an eye out for that and any additional information about future opportunities. So as the planning team thinks about kind of what this all means, takes in all the information, you'll likely be hearing a bit more from them, what the next steps are. So also, I want to give a huge thanks to our fantastic speakers and panelists. A big thank you to the planning team. So Jen Gugliona, Allison Lau, Steve Fries, Alyssa Hall, and the Cadmus team, and to our fearless leaders, Alan and Julia. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, your inspiration and thoughtfulness. Like without that, this wouldn't have happened. And thank you all for your time and attention. So Alyssa has shared a post-workshop survey. We have some additional time that we're going to give you, and we hope that you use that time to be thoughtful in filling out the survey. What you share will help WUCA in planning for the next activities that they do in terms of doing this for other regions. And then also in the survey, there's another opportunity to share out what next steps might be for the Delaware River Basin. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back to Alyssa to share any other additional concluding thoughts.
I don't have many, but thank you everybody for joining us this week. I know it's been several long and early days for some of us, so I think that it's been really great to hear all of this information and have a venue to come together and collaborate and learn from each other. Yes, please do take some time to fill out the post-workshop survey that I posted in the chat. We are pretty much at the end of our plan for this workshop, our agenda. So I will leave the Zoom open for a few minutes. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or the WUCA team. We'd love to hear from you and continue this collaboration. So I've already got a few emails that I'm planning on sending just for my own edification. I'm not even in the basin, but thank you all so much. And we will see you at the next one.